Well, greetings, brothers and sisters from around the world. And coming after Christmas, maybe I could say Merry belated Christmas. But let me say Happy New Year. We have just a few hours to the end of the year. And I'm here to say thank you so much on behalf of Homeschoolers Uganda Group and Re4 Nations. We have been raising funds for the printer. Those of you who have been able to see that fundraiser project we've been working on. And I'm thankful that something has come in. We are not yet there. We are not at a place where we have achieved a final goal, but I believe we're about to get there. With you and I joining together, we can do this. We can make it. Therefore, I want to encourage you with the remaining few hours before we end the year that you could give in towards this fundraiser. We've been fundraising. We're fundraising for a printer. A while back, I did another video where I talked about the books, the biblically integrated primary school books we have developed for Uganda or for Africa, books in which we are addressing all the topics that have been outlined by the state, by the national curriculum. It is those topics, that same scope and sequence which we have written in these textbooks, which we have developed in these textbooks, but making sure that on every topic we integrate a biblical outlook, biblical worldview, biblical thinking to it, so we could give our learners a truly biblical mindset, a truly biblical outlook to life. Because look, we prepare tomorrow's generation through education, through discipling them. That's how we prepare them. And how can we really achieve that if we are not giving them a mind of Christ? If we are leaving them to use textbooks which are addressing these good topics which God made, but from a secular perspective, if there is such a thing as a secular perspective. But anyway, integrating biblical principles in every aspect of life is one of our core values. Biblical worldview is our core values. We want to look at everything in life through a lens of scripture, because we believe the world in which we are preparing our children to take over, to take dominion over tomorrow, is a world which God made, is a world which God created. There is no other way they can succeed if they are not handling this world from God's point of view. And if they are not taught that way, there is no way we can expect that to happen. And that's the reason for biblically integrated curriculum. It's the reason why we sat down and made sure we look at the four main teaching subjects in our primary school, that is science, social studies, math, and language arts. We look at those subjects through the first 7 levels of education here in Uganda, and we develop textbooks for each subject and for each level. That is 4 subjects, 7 levels, 28 textbooks which we have written, which we have published, in which biblical principles are integrated on every topic, on every page. Now, as I thank you, those of you who have stood with us so far, I want also to answer one question, one key question one of you asked me from my previous videos where I talked about biblical integration. And it's a common question. That's why I wanted to come in here and respond to it so I could possibly encourage you even more. It's a question of why integrate? Because whenever I talk about integration, to most people, the thinking is you are getting something on this side and you're getting another thing on this other side. They are totally unrelated and you're trying to bring them together. That's the thinking for most people. Now, I want to correct this by saying that's not what we mean by integration. And I'll do this by attempting to define what is to integrate. And like always, I'll borrow what Webster says about integrate. According to Webster 1828, this is what he says to integrate means. He says it's a verb. It's a verb from the Latin root integro, which simply means to renew, to restore, to perfect, or to make a thing entire. Among other definitions, this is what I drew out that has relevancy and application to what we are talking about. When we talk about to integrate, what we mean is to renew. We're talking about restoration, to perfect, or to make holistic, to make entire, to kind of make it original. Why do we need to integrate, therefore? Why do we need to renew? That alone must communicate to us something wrong happened. There was once something perfect, something good, something genuine, but it was affected. And you and I should know that's what happened at the fall. When the fall of man took effect, it affected all of creation. This is what Paul tells us when he's writing to the Romans in chapter 8, verse 20. Paul says all creation was subjected to decay. In other words, the integrity of creation was lost at the fall. Now, given that that integrity was lost at the fall, you and I who live on this side of history after Christ is coming and giving us the mandate to go and disciple, to go and renew, to go and restore, to go and bring redemption. This is our opportunity to redeem every subject as taught in science, to make sure that integrity that was lost at the creation of this subject, the integrity, that was lost at the fall, that integrity which God intended at creation is restored, is renewed, is redeemed, is brought back. That's the reason for integrating biblical principles, biblical truth. Why biblical? Because the Bible is God's standard. It's what He has given us. The Bible is the canon. It's the plumb line. It's the one that is going to help us to measure the straightness of the subject, to make sure that the integrity of the subject is brought back. We've got to choose deliberately to look at all these subjects, all these topics through the lens of Scripture. Other than that, we'll be left to the default, which is the fall. That's the reason for why we integrate biblical principles. That's our mindset. That's what we mean when we talk about integration. It's not at all to get two unrelated things and try to force them together or to glue them together. That's not what we are doing. We are trying to go to search and seek out what this subject ought to be right from the maker's mind, right from the beginning. What is it that God intended in as far as algebra is concerned, so that algebra can have its expression in the manner that God intended it at the beginning? That's what we mean by integration of biblical principles. And that's what we teach in these books, and that's what we teach in our teacher trainings, where we go across trying to teach some of the teachers and the parents on how to teach from a biblical perspective. We teach them basically to look at all these subjects from the way God intended them to be. We make them be aware of what the fall did to the subjects, the impact of the fall to every subject that they are teaching. They must be aware of that. And after looking at the gravity of the impact of the fall, then with that passion, we come together and say, well, this is what God intended from Scripture. Here is what Scripture says. These are the biblical principles we can glean from what Scripture says about these kinds of subjects. And therefore, it's your duty and I to make sure that we bring restoration, we bring renewal to these subjects. That's why our partners, Reformations, are called Reformation. We are trying to reform, to bring reform to the things that were broken by the fall. And in some of our cultures, there's a lot of brokenness. And I believe it's the same with your culture as well, from wherever you are watching this from. And it's our duty to make sure that we bring this integrity, we restore this integrity, and we do that by integrating, being integrators every day, everywhere we go, in every topic, in every aspect of our lives. We must restore the glory of God that He intended at the beginning. So please join us again within these few hours that are left before we end the year to give in towards this goal of raising $15,000 that are going to be matched dollar by dollar, to go towards raising or purchasing the printer, which printer is going to help us to make sure that we print our own books. There are printers, yes, in the country, commercial printers, but they have proven to be very expensive for us to be able to print these books and make them available to everybody across the country. It's the reason we want to raise our own printer, and this will help us greatly because look, we do not yet have the storage facility to make sure we print massive books and store them somewhere. We don't have those facilities yet, and it's very difficult to go that route in this day and era. So this printer which we want to purchase, which prints on demand, it can help us that when somebody makes an order of 5, 10, 30, 20, 300 books, we can print them anytime somebody makes the order. So please join us, and the Lord will bless you.